On today's show, we get the story on Mim Flynn and Irish mossing. Visit with Jacqueline Porro of the Talking Information Center and with Deanna Day of South Shore Pottery. Take a closer look with Plymouth County District Attorney Timothy Cruz, pop up at Silver Lake High School, Part 2, bring you an important message from Beth Israel Deaconess Plymouth, and talk about upcoming things to do in our area. We're glad you're here. Let's get started. On the local scene, of course, we're celebrating the month of March by honoring the Irish immigrant experience, Women's History Month, and seaweed harvesting. Here's the story on Mim Flynn and Irish mossing.
Hey, good morning.
Top of the morning to ya.
Yeah, okay. Did you by chance get what is this?
A pot of gold. You know, like the leprechaun at the end of the rainbow. And since you kinda cut me, you get it all, my lucky friend.
Cool. Ben, this is full of seaweed.
That is correct. Irish moss, to be exact.
And why exactly?
Because it's as good as gold. In fact, better than gold. If you know, you know.
Okay, thanks. I'm just gonna leave this right here. When you get a chance to figure out that other project, let me know, but I'm gonna go to the other end of the rainbow.
Stretching from Plymouth to Weymouth, the South Shore Irish Heritage Trail winds through 9 coastal towns, documenting the Irish experience through a variety of historical sites and monuments. Starting in the 1840s, these communities became home for large numbers of Irish immigrants. And to this day, over 40% of the South Shore's population can trace their heritage back to these descendants. What's the story here? What drew these Irish folks to the region? The answer, in large part, is seaweed. To get to the heart of this story, you must traverse the trail to Scituate, known as the most Irish town in America. It's also the first place in the country where mossing became an industry. The moss we're referring to is Irish moss, or Chondrus crispus, a red algae that grows abundantly along the rocky shores of the Atlantic coasts of Europe and North America. From this seaweed, carrageen, a useful emulsifying and suspending agent, can be extracted. To this day, it's used in products that are familiar to us all, everything from moisturizer to medicine, toothpaste, yogurt, and hand soap. The harvesting of this seaweed, or mossing, began here in the U.S. in 1847 with a man named Daniel Ward. Ward was fishing off the coast of Boston and spotted the familiar short, frilly, fan-like fronds and deep red and purplish seaweed he recognized as Irish moss. Knowing how valuable it was back home in Ireland to thicken pudding and clarify beer, the potential for profit was immediately clear. Ward seized the opportunity and began to harvest it, settling on the beaches of Scituate. Word of the opportunities for work quickly spread among those back in Ireland fleeing the potato famine. As a result, Irish immigrants began to settle in Scituate, taking advantage of the jobs Ward's mossing industry was creating. By 1870, there were close to 100 Irish families in Scituate, with many drawn to the area just to settle, even if they weren't working in the mossing business. For such a unique industry and salty maritime profession, of course, it attracted a fascinating cast of characters. But there was one mosser that really stood out, Mim Flynn, also known as the Irish Mossing Queen. A native to Scituate, Mim Flynn grew up in Second Cliff during the Depression years. Much to the chagrin of her socialite mother, Mim got swept into the realm of her town's main industry in the late 1930s, when she was only 9 years old, making her the youngest mosser out on Scituate Harbor. Mossing was a family affair, and typically the women, along with the children, stayed ashore, gathering what washed up on the beaches as well as managing the process of drying the seaweed. But Mim was not typical. She was not only the youngest, but also the first girl, then woman, to row her own dory onto the harbor and participate in the harvesting of seaweed, a job typically reserved for men. Harvesting seaweed required mossers to travel alone in 16-foot boats. going out 2 hours before low tide and often 2 hours after low tide. They used large, heavy rakes to harvest often thousands of pounds of seaweed in a day off the craggy rocks and sea floor. With this in mind, you can imagine the vision of Mim's tiny 5'2" frame raking, harvesting, and hauling boatloads of Irish moss garnered some attention. Mim became somewhat of a media sensation from the moment she first rowed her dory out onto the harbor and was photographed working throughout her career. Articles were written about her and published in newspapers up the coast and as far away as Canada. In her time, Mim brought national attention to the century-old industry that made Scituate the most Irish town in America. She held the status as the only woman to have her own dory until World War II, when the mossing industry really boomed. The seaweed was in high demand because agar, a competitive gel that had mostly been made in Japan, had been cut off because of the war. So carrageen harvested domestically stepped in to fill the gap. With so many men off to war, women needed to find ways to earn income. Perhaps seeing photos of this petite woman holding her own on a dory full of seaweed opened the door for other women to see their own potential in the lucrative mossing industry. The mossing industry tapered off after World War II ended, but in Scituate it continued to provide small jobs and summer gigs for teenagers into the 1990s. Mim even brought her own kids into the mossing world, having them gather off the beach and dry seaweed on their lawn, up until the last local buyer of Irish moss died in the late 80s. Looking at those early photos of Mim in her dory, heading out to gather Irish moss, we're not just looking at a maritime character or the first woman to take on this work. What Mim represents is the iron will, the entrepreneurship and hard-working ethics of the Irish immigrants and descendants whose contributions helped make the South Shore what it is today. Thank you, and top of the morning to you here at the local scene. We wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day and hope you find your treasure at the end of the rainbow, whether it be gold coins or maybe some seaweed.
The Talking Information Center is a local radio reading service that provides programming to the visually impaired through the work of approximately 200 volunteers each week. We went on the local scene to learn more.
Patriot safety Kyle Duggar switched agencies from powerhouse athletes.
We're a radio reading broadcast service for the blind, visually impaired, and print disabled people. A great portion of the people that need our service are people who are print disabled, meaning perhaps they have Parkinson's and it's difficult to hold the print media, or perhaps they have dyslexia that hasn't been fully remedied and they need some assistance with listening to our programs. And then there are all sorts of other situations that occur that you just can't think of that lead to difficulty maneuvering your hands and holding print media. You know, the other area that I see that this is used in is for shut-ins. People that don't have any kind of visual impairment, but they're people that don't drive any longer, they're not out in the community, and they can turn on the service and listen to us and hear what's going on in their community.
Who resigned with the team. From
Every weekday from 8 to 11, we have live readers come in and they do the Wall Street Journal, the Boston Globe, the Boston Herald, and the Washington Post. And then throughout the day, you have all of our different other programming, which can include books, some fun programming like Woman's Hour, Men's Hour. One of our most listened to programs is the grocery ads. Yeah, because people need to know what's on sale. And if they can't read it, they don't know. They don't know how they want to adjust their shopping list. So that's one of our most heavily tuned into programs. Part of what makes us is that we are lending ourselves towards creating a community for people. And you wouldn't experience that with a computerized voice. Our listeners look forward to hearing Ed and Fred, and they look forward to hearing our other readers that come in on a regular basis and do their regular programming. It really is like having a friend in the room. Our goal is accessibility, so we have many ways that you can reach us. So the website, and the website has both live stream and on-demand programming, Amazon Alexa, Google Home, the app that is for Android and Apple, and also has live stream and on-demand available. We have a radio that runs on a single frequency that is available if we send it out to someone that needs it, and it only plays our station. We like to celebrate the arts for sure, and we have fantastic programs. The live radio plays that we put on, they actually come into one of our larger studios and the actors come in, we have an audience, and they perform a play over the radio. We also broadcast some symphony orchestras. The Atlantic Symphony Orchestra is broadcast because of underwriting by Dacon, and we also do the Plymouth Philharmonic. I have loved coming on board to the Talking Information Center. It starts right when you walk in the door. It is a mighty staff of 7 people, and they are welcoming and kind and masters in their fields. It's just exciting to work with them. TIC would not run without the volunteers. We have over 200 volunteers that read remotely and read in the studio and put up 325 programs a week. We run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It just couldn't run without the volunteers. I think it's kind of like a family here. We recently had a volunteer appreciation night. We had it up at the Stellwagen Brewery. We had live music and good food and just invited the people that volunteer with us to come in and be appreciated. It was wonderful. I saw people introducing themselves to each other if they maybe read at different times, and they would start with, well, what do you read? What do you read? What's your interest? What's your background? You know, it was just a really nice time of connectedness for our volunteers. My long-term goal coming into TIC is awareness. I think it's a service that is immeasurable in impact. And I think there are many, many people who could use this service. And like I said, not necessarily for yourself, but for that loved one that is encountering low vision or coming into blindness or was just diagnosed with Parkinson's. And this is a little bit of hope. You know, we have a place that you can come, you can be part of the community, and you can volunteer. Interestingly, I'm always looking for listeners who could help me make things more accessible. You know, just by just telling me, this worked really well for me, I could access this well, or no, this didn't, you know, this I had trouble with this. That's even a way for our listeners to be part of the community. One of my goals too is to find ways to bring that awareness for volunteers. So opportunities like the one we have here with the local scene allow us to reach out to other volunteers and just explain how inviting it is and how important it is. We have legislators and representatives who are working on our behalf to secure funding within Massachusetts. Equal to that is our private support, and we have very generous donors and people that can give to us on a regular basis that lends itself to supporting us financially. I've had a really blessed career. I've been able to work in arenas that I got true joy from. I loved being a DA. I loved working for people as a plaintiff's attorney. I really hit my groove when I got to work in special education advocacy. That was a beautiful time for me, career-wise. And then finding that overlap between being a practicing attorney and being in nonprofit leadership was just a bright spot, you know, and like I said, you know, everything is timing and geography and who you get to meet, and all of that lined up for me to step into nonprofit leadership, and mission-driven work is where I'm meant to be. And I feel like this is it. You know, I practiced for 16 years, it was a wonderful time in my life, and now I get to do this whole second act. It's joyful and it's exciting and it's impactful, I think.
To volunteer, support, or learn more, visit ticnetwork.org. Next, we take a closer look with Julie Thompson and Plymouth County District Attorney Timothy Cruz.
Good afternoon, and welcome to A Closer Look. Today we're taking a closer look at the District Attorney's Office, and especially the District Attorney Timothy Cruz, who's been DA for the Plymouth County for 23 years. 23 years. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. Now, when we say we want to take a closer look at the DA, your website, which is PlymouthDA.com.
Correct.
If you, as a person, go to this website, you will find 1,000 different tabs you can go to, and there's just a myriad of information as in terms of what you do and what you have brought forward in the 23 years that you've been doing this job. If you had to, in a nutshell, say, what does a DA do, or what do I do as a DA, what would you say?
You know, I'm often asked that question, and I'll always say, well, you know, do do you watch Law and Order? And people will say, oh yeah, I watch Law and Order. And do you watch CSI? And they'll say, yeah, I watch CSI. So it's nothing like that. That's television.
Right.
My job is to run a group of individuals, roughly 60 lawyers, probably a staff of 150 altogether, including the state police who work with us, and try to make sure that we can navigate our way through the criminal justice system and really to keep people safe and to protect people, whether it be on the front end or the back end or all the many things we do in the middle.
So you not only protect people, but you educate.
Right.
You identify trends, problems, conditions, and then you try to come up with programs that will help address them or educate people about them. Tell me some of the things that you're most proud of that you've been able to bring forward as a DA.
Well, there's been so many different things, but I think one of the things from which many other things spawned off of was really trying to help kids who are traumatized, kids who witness violence. And we started this probably 16, 17 years ago from a case that happened in the city of Brockton. And we've kind of taken that on the road. And we showed a lot of people what we were doing, talking to people who are very smart, dealing with kids who are being traumatized because it affects their whole life.
Sure.
And it puts them in cycles of kids who unfortunately are living in a world of domestic violence, child abuse. How do you break those cycles? How do you help those kids? That's really what this is about.
Right.
And so that's why I look at what we're doing on the front end, going into the schools, talking to the kids that need the help the most, helping them make sure they can navigate their way through just a regular day at school.
Right.
Now more than ever. I mean, mental health issues are unabated in many instances, and since COVID, kids, I think, have a very difficult time in schools. How can the DA's office be involved on the front end? And most importantly, how do we collaborate with everybody else?
Right.
And how can we work together?
Your partners.
Right.
Who do you consider your greatest partners to help you bring forward the initiatives and the programs that you want to succeed?
A lot of the different agencies, faith-based issues, we deal with, faith-based, we deal with the legislators, we deal with the judiciary, we deal with educators, we deal with medical professionals, we deal with the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
We all work together. We have so many great things and that have made a real difference, I think, in our community. And many people say to me that they look at what we're doing down here and they say, how do you get all these people involved? How do you do that? And it's one step at a time.
Right.
It's making sure you can get somebody and you can tell them, here's what we're going to do. Here's why we think it's going to be worthwhile. And can you help us do it?
Right.
And most people want to help.
Of course they do.
And whether or not there's going to be resources for it, that's always going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
Can we provide resources and can we get in front of that problem? And that's what this is about. And that's the way that I look at the job.
Right. Now, you must every day can bring something that you didn't expect. I mean, I'm sure you have a to-do list and you have your calendar, and at any moment of any day you can get a phone call that blows up your day, maybe your week, maybe your month.
Yeah.
How do you keep as positive as you do and keep barreling forward when constantly you're having things thrown at you all the time? How do you do it?
Well, I mean, I just think we have, and what people should know is we have a really good group of people that I trust, over the years, where some people have come, some people have gone, but while they were there, the people that I can rely on and that I can trust to make sure that we're doing the right thing at all levels. And that's what I have to, there's too many balls in the air. You can't juggle them all.
Right.
And whether it be something that's, a case that may have occurred in a small district court, well, to somebody, that's a really big, important case.
Right.
We need to make sure they understand that and that we're treating it that way.
Yeah.
And whether or not it's going to be maybe a case that might be in the front page of the newspaper or on television
Right.
or on cable, you never know when those are coming.
Right.
So how do you put yourself in a position? You surround yourself by good people. You tread slowly. Slow and steady wins the race. I believe that.
Yeah.
And you try to get all the information you can. And when we show up at these terrible situations many times in the middle of the night, the goal is, okay, what do we have to do so when this case is tried in the next 2, 3, 4 years, whatever it's going to be, how do we cross our T's
Yep.
and dot our I's and objectively do our job and do it now?
Right.
We don't have the luxury of looking back and being Monday morning quarterback
Right.
3 years from now.
Right.
So how do you get people in those positions? And I think that we've been able to bring people up, through the ranks, bring people from other places, making sure that they understand what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And we're going to do the right thing, and we're going to get to a just result. You may not agree with the result,
Right.
but I may not agree with the result.
Yeah.
But we have a job to do, and we're in the criminal justice system, and we have a job to keep people safe.
Yep.
On the front end, on the back end, and the middle.
Right. Okay. So that's your biggest objective is to keep people safe. But you also keep people educated, and you do an awful lot of outreach. You do a lot of programs. Just for example, the grandparents raising kids. Now that all came out of really the opioid crisis, right? That's what started that.
Right.
So one thing started another thing, which started another thing. It snowballs. Does anything ever come to its conclusion and then you're done and you can check that off and move on to something else?
Not really. They seem to always keep going because the problem never really goes away.
Right.
And when you put those efforts, like back in 2015 when we started, myself and Sheriff McDonald started the Plymouth County Drug Abuse Task Force.
Yes.
That's because we saw our numbers of fatal opioid overdoses going up.
Yeah.
What can we do? Because every town had their own thing going on, whether it be Marshfield kids, Hingham kids, whatever it may be. And how do we minimize all these different meetings and bring in the people to the table to talk about these issues?
Right.
And that's when we brought in the educators and judiciary and the legislative and the faith-based. How do you bring those ideas together and working together? And from our task force, we developed, Plymouth County Outreach came out of that, which is another program. And from Plymouth County Outreach, then we saw people showing up, police officers that we trained, first responders that we trained, showing up, bringing resources to the individuals who had been involved in non-fatal opioid overdoses. But then what were they seeing? They were seeing kids.
Right.
And then many times these kids are kids who have what's known as adverse childhood experiences, kids who are drug endangered. How do you help those kids from getting in the cycles of drug abuse?
Breaking the cycle.
Yeah,
Which is what you want to do.
You're right, and so now what do? You're in a situation where maybe the mom passed away, maybe the dad passed away, maybe somebody's in custody. They have all these different ACEs. How do you help those kids? And many times the kids end up with the grandparents.
Right.
And that's where you can see it just continues to step and step and step.
Right.
And so I've talked to many people that were grandparents saying that, they're my age. Like I'm a senior.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're dealing with your grandkids and you're 64 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I love my grandkid, but I'm not 34 years old.
Right.
And it's a different world now.
Right.
How can you put them in a position to succeed
Yeah.
and to help those kids? Because if we don't, those kids down the road could very well be back in this whole situation. Breaking those cycles is huge.
And to see more of this interview, go to the Local Scene Government Services YouTube channel. Thanks.
Modernist author Virginia Woolf praised George Eliot's novel Middlemarch, a Victorian-era book underscoring the issues around the social status of women, as a magnificent book that, with all its imperfections, is one of the few English novels written for grown-up people. Woolf, in her own time, was also no stranger to dissecting and revealing the vexing issues around gender and status in her novels. In honor of Women's History Month, both of these seminal authors will be highlighted on Thursday, March 21st, in a lecture at the Duxbury Free Library given by Dr. Susan Bernstein, author of Roomscape, Women Writers in the British Museum, from George Eliot to Virginia Woolf. The event runs from 5 to 6 p.m. in the Merry Room. Register via the Duxbury Free Library website. Next up on our Open Here podcast, Tiff Phillips sits down with artist and South Shore Pottery owner Deanna Day.
Hi, I'm with Deanna Day, who is the owner of South Shore Pottery. Hello, welcome.
How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you. So, full disclosure, we are friends in real life, not just on podcast life. So, we've known each other for a couple of years now. My wife and I used to go into Dee's studio and used to paint. And now we've still stuck with her because she's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Before we get into South Shore Pottery, let's talk about your background. Where did you grow up?
Norwood.
Norwood? Nice.
Yeah.
So how did you get down here?
I met my husband in Norwood, and he was from the Holbrook, so that's where we moved.
Do you love the area?
I do. I do.
What do you love about the area?
I just like the proximity to everything. It's just so easy to get anywhere.
It's very true.
Yeah.
At what age did you find that you were going to be an artist? Have you always been on that path?
Yeah, I was an art major in high school. I have to go back to elementary school. I had a 5th grade teacher that really recognized it, and he pulled it out of me. He would have us do bulletin boards and not have to do math for the day. And I used to they used to have book poster contests, and I won every year in grammar school. So, yeah, I guess it's just always been in me.
You've always been a winner.
I've always been a winner. In your book, anyway.
Of course, in my book, in everyone's book. So what led you to start your own business?
I had a job in 2009 that the company had closed, and I was doing pottery from my house with friends once a week, and I couldn't find a job, so I created one.
There you go.
Yeah.
Originally, you started in a brick and mortar shop in Abington, and then you switched over to kind of more of a traveling experience. What led you to that decision?
It was just time for me to be creative and paint again. I was tired of. I wasn't tired of it, but it was time to move on and not worry about who's going to buy the toilet paper in the studio for the week or whatever. But yeah, basically, I just wanted to be creative again and paint.
And we love you for it.
Thank you.
So you travel to different places. You travel to breweries, dispensaries, different areas to teach painting, but also just to have people experience. For full disclosure, she does do adult nights and paraphernalia, but we can't discuss that on the show. But what other paint nights do you do?
We do all kinds of platters and holiday items, handprint items for kids. Basically anything that Pottery Studios would do. We do it on a mobile level now.
And you have theme nights too. We attended Mushroom Madness a couple of weeks
Yes.
ago, which was super fun.
Me
What
too.
other themes do you do?
We do Friends nights. We're doing an 80s and 90s nights in a couple of weeks.
Which I want to go to.
Well, you better hurry up. It's pretty much sold out. Charcuterie platters, just anything really.
And then you sell your work at various locations. So that's a struggle for a lot of artists. How have you been able to kind of find that success?
We always sold stuff that we painted in the studio. Before we closed, we actually had a gift shop in the studio. But now we're selling at dispensaries, artisan locations, gift shops. I just reach out to local businesses and artisan locations and ask them if they want our products in the store, and they try it or they don't. And if they want it, we go in and we do a display. We make groupings of certain products, depending on where we sell it. We sell locally in Plymouth in a few stores. But yeah, just reaching out, doing what I love.
And what are the best parts about owning your own business?
The flexibility, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband retired a year ago, and that was part of the reason that I went home to do this business and went mobile, so that now that we're together at home, we spend more time together.
And what have been some challenges in owning your own business?
I guess it's just the time management. You're never off the clock. Even on vacation, your phone's on. I got to the point where I was, telling the girls, don't text me. You need to call me because I don't want to keep looking at my phone. But I would say the time management. I mean, you have flexibility, so you can go on vacation a lot. But yeah, it's just basically time.
What advice do you have for people who are maybe starting your own business? What do you wish somebody had told you when you were first starting out?
I think the accounting part of it, like find a good accountant. Don't try and manage the books yourself.
Yeah, that's scary.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you think the future holds for South Shore Pottery and for you?
I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Right now I'm creating cards and coloring books and things like that. It's not just pottery. I'm an artist, so I do a lot of different mediums. I teach a lot of different stuff, resin, canvas, whether it's at a brewery, dispensary, whether it's team building at a business. Yeah, I just keep going, doing what I'm doing. I say to my husband all the time, I'm not retiring. I'm an artist. I'm just always going to do this.
And you still love it after all these
I do.
years?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you love about it the most, you think?
I just love being creative. I love just coloring and drawing and designing, I guess.
And we love you for it.
Thank
Dee,
you.
thank you so much for being here today.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Unexplained incidences of the paranormal seem to occur regularly and most frequently in specific areas of the United States. On Saturday, March 30th from 4 to 5 p.m., join Monsterland author and New England native Ronnie LeBlanc at the Plymouth Public Library for a talk on paranormal hotspots. Ronnie is a globally recognized figure in the world of the paranormal, Bigfoot, and UFOs. You'll recognize him from the Travel Channel series Expedition Bigfoot, Paranormal Caught on Camera, and more. Don't miss this peek into other worlds that exist just beyond our current understanding. Ronnie will also be highlighting areas right here in New England that stretch the boundaries of what we know. This program is for ages 12 and up. Visit the Plymouth Public Library to register. Artificial intelligence is here and here to stay, but is it something to be feared or celebrated? With knowledge comes the power to decide for yourself. And on March 28th at 10 a.m., the Duxbury Senior Center is hosting the informational program, The Amateur's Guide to Artificial Intelligence and ChatGPT. Speaker Dave Pillai will present an overview of this robust and ever-evolving technology, covering the history, uses, and future of AI, including what to expect as it's incorporated into more and more aspects of our modern life. Register for this event through the Duxbury Senior Center website. Here with an important message is Dr. Christian Corwin from Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital, Plymouth.
Colorectal cancer is one of the most common cancers, but is also often preventable. Hi, I'm Dr. Christian Corwin, a colorectal surgeon at Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital in Plymouth. March is Colon Cancer Awareness Month. The best way to prevent this cancer is to have a colonoscopy. A colonoscopy will show any polyps which can then be removed. If you're squeamish about the procedure, a Cologuard test is another option.
I try to encourage my patients, however, if they choose Cologuard screening, I think that's great because any screening is better than no screening. Colonoscopy is clearly the gold standard for colon cancer screening.
Recently, researchers have discovered that colorectal cancer is affecting younger people. About 10% of the cases are diagnosed in people under 50. These numbers are rising. If you are 45 years old or older, you should schedule a colonoscopy. They only take 30 to 40 minutes and it is a painless procedure. To schedule an appointment, call the team at the hospital at 508-747-1560. As one patient said, the test is a walk in the park compared to the alternative.
Homework doesn't have to be a lonely, boring, hunger-inducing drag. The Teen Homework Club at the Kingston Public Library offers a place to get peer support, make friends, complete your assignments, and most importantly, there are snacks. The next Teen Homework Club is on Tuesday, March 26th from 3 to 5 p.m. in the library's teen room and is a drop-in program so students can come and go as they please. This club is for teenagers only. Contact librarian Kat Dwyer at cdwyer@kingston.ocln.org to learn more. If you're a senior over 65 who owns or rents a home as your principal residence, you may be eligible for the Massachusetts Senior Circuit Breaker Tax Credit. Seniors from all local towns are welcome to learn more about this refundable tax credit at the Pembroke Council on Aging on Tuesday, March 19th from 12:30 to 2 p.m. This Lunch and Learn informational session will be presented by State Representative Kathy Lenatra and Brian Lynch from the Department of Revenue, who has been with the DOR for over 39 years and is one of the agency's principal liaisons. Along with providing the information you need to claim the Senior Circuit Breaker Tax Credit, a sandwich lunch with drink and dessert will be served. Lunch and Learn is free. Please register in advance by calling the Pembroke Council on Aging at 781-294-8220. Crocus flowers, budding trees, and opening day of Plymouth Patuxent Museums, all signs of a new spring in Massachusetts. Welcome the new season at Plymouth Patuxent Opening Day on Saturday, March 23rd. Each visit provides endless activities as you immerse yourself in the history of our Indigenous peoples and European settlers. The museum opens at 9 a.m. For more information and to plan your day, visit plymouth.org. Plymouth Pride is hosting an egg hunt for all LGBTQIA families with children on Saturday, March 23rd at 10 a.m. This exciting event is one that encourages you to put all your eggs in one basket. The fun is happening at North Plymouth Playground, located at 221 Standish Ave. This is a free event, but to ensure there are enough eggs for everybody, please pre-register all your participating little peeps through Plymouth Pride's Egg Hunt Eventbrite page. Adults do not need to be registered. Entering your first year of high school can be nerve-wracking. Where are your classes? And more importantly, who will you sit with at lunch? We popped up at Silver Lake Regional High School to get advice from the experts on how to make the most out of your high school experience.
I I'm with Connor. Connor, you're a senior, so you have a lot of experience. What advice do you have for upcoming freshmen?
Yeah, what a great question. And it might sound cliche, but I would say get involved. Especially, and I can't speak for other high schools, but here at Silver Lake, we do an excellent job of providing so many different clubs, sports, and extracurricular organizations that really allow our students to get involved.
What kind of organizations are you involved in?
So throughout my day here and into the afternoons, I'm involved with our school's student council. I'm a player on our school's unified basketball and our tennis teams, and I'm also a part of our debate team, as well as doing some work for our school committee.
We talked a little bit about this earlier, but you said you have some plans for after. Do you plan on going to school?
Yes, I plan on attending college after this year. I'm not sure yet where that will be, but I'm excited for the new experience.
Well, I'm excited for your new experiences too. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course, thank you for having me.
You have some tips on studying. What are the ways people can be the best studiers they can possibly be?
What works for me the most is I have a schedule for studying, and I have certain times for managing my homework, my school, and my home life, and even my clubs. So when I get home, I study for about an hour or so, and then I have some time just to do my things that I need to be doing at home, and then I get back to studying and I finish all my homework, and then I have dinner, and then I'm set for the rest of the night.
Oh, that's wonderful. What year are you?
I'm a freshman.
You're a freshman. Okay,
Yes.
do you have any advice for freshmen coming in next year?
Just get involved, and there's so many opportunities for you to take. You just have to be able to basically just take the opportunities, and there's so many clubs that there's something for everyone here.
That's wonderful, Brandon. Thank you so much for joining us
Of course.
today.
Thank you.
I'm with Hayden. Hayden, what are some great studying tips that you found?
I definitely say to get started studying as soon as possible. I feel most people try to put off and procrastinate studying because they have homework and other things to do, and they think they can just cram in one night. I say get started as soon as possible. So instead of studying for 5 hours one night, you're studying for 30 minutes every night, and you also learn what subjects and what topics you need to reflect on most and which ones you need to practice more. So that way you're definitely more prepared. I also say experiment with different studying methods. Different methods, no person is the same. Sometimes people that can write stuff out, people write stuff out to study, doesn't work for everyone else. So I say experiment with different strategies and try to figure out which one works best for you to help remember everything.
Are you gonna be a teacher at some point? Because those are some fantastic tips.
I've thought about it. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see.
What year are you?
I'm a sophomore.
A sophomore, that's great. So you still got a couple more years.
Yep.
That's great. Do you have any advice for incoming freshmen?
Try everything your freshman year. I feel like lots of freshmen come in and they don't really know what they're gonna do. They're in a completely different experience, different situation than they were in middle school. And I feel like they just say, okay, I'm just gonna try to survive my freshman year. Definitely try to get involved in as many things as you can your freshman year. Try out new sports, new clubs, because who knows, if you don't like it, well, then again, you don't have to do it your sophomore year. But if you do end up loving something, then you can continue that thing for the next 4 years of your high school career or your high school life. And you can, instead of regretting things your senior year, being like, wow, I wish I had done this.
Well, that advice is chef's kiss. Thank you so much for joining us today. All right, I'm with Bandeshi. So you're a junior. Tell me, so you've been at this a while. So tell me, what is some advice you have for upcoming freshmen?
Well, definitely do your homework. That's my main advice, because freshman year, I know it's a big adjustment, definitely. But if you can just stay there doing your homework, you'll get that grade in. So you'll always have 100 for homework. And then tests and quizzes are harder, but doing the homework, you'll definitely get some practice in.
I love it. You seem like a cool guy. Tell me, how is it okay? Should people try to fit in or just be themselves?
Oh, definitely be yourself. Because if you try to fit in, you're just pretending. You're putting on a mask, and you can't keep the mask on forever. So it's eventually not going to work out. I definitely suggest being yourself.
Would you like some assistance with your tax preparation? Through the IRS's Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, IRS certified students in Cape Cod Community College's accounting program are available for free help in filing your 2023 return. These student volunteers have passed all necessary training and exams to become fully IRS certified. Appointments are available every Tuesday at the college in West Barnstable from 9 to 1 p.m. through April 15th. To schedule yours, email vita@capecod.edu or call 774-330-4923. Appointments are required. And that, my friends, wraps what's good and good to know this week on the local scene. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time. For more of what's good and good to know on the South Shore of Massachusetts, hit the subscribe button. And thank you for watching.